binary files, right? So now pickle module provide one function called dump. So when I write here 101, 101 is actually what here? Integer. But what this dump will do is convert this integer to what? Bytes. So this complete integer object convert into a bytes and it will write inside file. Again, I said pickle.dump 1.5. So 1.5 is which type? Float. And it will convert this float into what again? Bytes. And write inside what again? File. So pickle.dump. Now what is this here? List. It will convert this list into what again? Bytes. And write inside what again? File. So dump is for converting, okay, every object into bytes. Converting every object into what here? Bytes. So that is done by using which one? Dump. So once I run this, now file 1 is created, but this file is which type? This file is which type? Binary file. This is which file? Binary file. But if I open this in text mode, can I see anything here? No. I cannot read this because everything is written in which one? Bytes. If I want to read this, again I have to open the file in which mode? Read mode. So the output of this program will be inside file 1.scr. So again I said import pickle module. So open which file? File 1.scr. R means what here? Read. So what you are doing, you are trying to convert those bytes again back to which type? Object type. So B means what here? Binary. Read binary. Load. Why? Because I write how many objects into the file? 1, 2, and 3. I read how many objects from the file? 3 objects. Load from file. Load file. Load again from where? File. So how many times I call this function load? 3 times. Load from the file, load from the file, and load from the file. So it will return A. A is integer, B is a float, and C is what here? List. So getting the existing state of the object or converting byte stream into object stream. Okay, converting byte stream into which stream? Object stream. So that you can call it as what? Unpickling. So here 101. So we read from file 1, and second one is 1.5. We read from the file 1, and third one is a list, which is read from which one? File 1. But in file 1, how it is stored? In the file 1, how it is stored? In file 1, it is stored in the form of, in file 1, it is stored in the form of what? Bytes. But when I say load, that byte is converted into what? Integers. So when it is writing, it will write along with the type also, because at the time of reading, you should construct that type of object and store the data, right? So whenever it is doing the serialization, it will try to write each object along with what? Type. That is called as complete object graph. Hierarchy means what? Complete object graph is right inside a file. Complete object graph. It will try to write the complete object graph inside the file. Complete object graph means it will try to save all the properties, information, as well as type information, and data. Everything will be converted into what? Bytes. So that when you load it, it will reconstruct the object of that particular type. Now, can I save my own object or not? Yes. For example, I develop one class here. So what is the name of the class here? Employee. So is it employee is a user defined class? I create this. So this is emp class, emp.py. So here I develop one data type. What is my data type here? Employee. Okay, I save this in which one? emp.py. So class employee and having a constructor. Now this constructor is for initialization, and there is a print employee that will print employee number, employee name, and one more is what? Salary. So as a constructor, receive how many values? Three values: employee number, name, and salary. Now E is assigned to employee number, N is assigned to employee name, and S is assigned to what here? Salary. E is assigned to employee number, N is assigned to employee name, S is assigned to what? Salary. Now there is a function print emp, self dot employee number, self dot employee name, and self dot salary. Now I want to create the object of this employee class. Now I save this in one module. What is this emp.py? So every Python program is called one module. So then I'm writing another program. So where I import, which one here? EMP. And I try to import which one? Pickle module. Now I want to write inside this particular file, open. So file, open. So I try to open the file, some emp file.scr. I try to open this file in right and W. So right and B means binary. I create employee object E1 equal to employee with employee number. So name of the employee and salary of the employee. But this employee class is there in which module? Employee module. So I imported employee module here. Okay, this is the employee module having which class? Employee class. So I want to write this inside a file. I'll say pickle dot. I'll say pickle dot dump. So I want to write this employee object into which one? File. I write this employee object into the file. But when I say dump E1, E1 is which object? Employee object. It will convert this employee object into what? Bytes. And then it will write inside which one? File. Okay, then after that I'm saying file dot what is that? Close. So I invoke the function main. Now this is writing the object. Okay, now this employee object is saved inside this file. You can see the file emp dot. Now you can see emp file dot scr. Is it this object is saved inside this file or not? Yes. But suppose in some other program I want the same object, then I don't create again. Okay, now here I want the object which is saved inside a file. Then I have to deserialize or unpickle, import emp module, and import pickle module. Okay, import emp module and import pickle module. So open the file. What is the name of the file? emp file dot scr. You have to open this file and read in binary mode. I want to read that employee object. So I'm saying E equal to pickle dot what is that? Load. So load from where? File. So this will return which object? Employee object. Now I say type of E. Now E is which type? Employee type. Once you run this, now E is which type? Employee type. So how can I get the details? Print. What is the function I've written? Print employee. What is the function I've written? Print employee. So that will get the employee details. Now this is role employee number, name, and salary. So here we write the object into the file, and here we read that object from the file. We persist the object state. We persist the object state by using okay We persist the object state by using pickling. It means we save the object state by using pickling. We save the object state by using pickling, and we read the existing state of the object by using what here? Unpickling. We read the object state by using pickling, and we read the existing object state using what? Unpickling. So that is where you find pickling, and what is that? Unpickling. Okay, right? Now this is how you work with the binary files. This is a test one where I import EMP module and created how many employee objects, 2 employee objects, and write inside the file. And here we try to load those 2 employee objects from the file. Yes. Now this is how you work with the files like text file, CSV file, JSON file, and binary files where you can write any type of objects. Then next we'll see working with the date and time. Okay, working with the date and time, date time module. So like Python is having different data types, right? Integer data type, float data type, okay, complex data type. Now integer data type is used to represent integer object. Float data type is used to represent float object. Complex data type is used to represent what? Complex number. But I want to represent date. For example, I am reading student data like roll number. Roll number is integer. Name is what? Stringer. Course is a string and fees is a float. But date of birth. So date of birth, I should represent it as what? Date. Then how can I represent the date of birth as a date? Then I required which data type? Date data type. I required which data type? Date data type. So where can I find this date data type? In one module. What is the name of that module? Date time. Is a default module, and this module comes with the Python software. You don't require to install this. This module comes with which software? Python software. So date module comes with the Python software, and date time module provide classes to work with the date as well as what? Time. So date time module provides the following classes. Like there is a date class which is used. Class means data type. Every class is one data type, and data is represented as what? Objects. Now there is a date class and there is a time class. Okay, now there is a date class and there is what? Time class, and there is a date time class, and there is a time delta class. Now date class is for representing a date, time class for representing a time, and all these are immutables. As once you create the date, you cannot do any changes. Once you create the time, you cannot do any changes. If you want to represent both date as well as what? Time, then you'll be using date time class. So date class to represent only date, and time class to represent only time, and date time class to represent date as well as what? Time, and time delta class is there. What is this time delta class? For doing arithmetic operations on the date. If you want to do some arithmetic operations on the date, you take the help of which one? Time delta. You cannot add the date. You cannot add the days, subtract the days directly. For that, you take the help of which one? Time delta. So date and time are immutable types. After creating a date and time, objects we cannot modify. After creating date and time objects, we cannot modify or update what? Values. Because these are immutables. These are what here? Immutable. So there is a class. What is the name of the class here? date class. A date object represents a date. A date object represents what here? Date. What date is having, how you create a date. So date class is having a constructor, right? Date class is having a constructor. Date class is having a constructor. What date class is having a constructor. What this constructor receive? Year, month, day. What this constructor receive? Year, month, day. It means whenever you create the date, you must define year, month, day. You cannot create the date without year, month, and date. No, you cannot create it because this constructor is having required arguments. This constructor is what here? Required arguments. All these values are required. All these values are what here? Required. Is having which arguments here? Required arguments. Is having which arguments here? Required arguments. It required a date, time, everything. Okay, right? So number of, yes, year, month, as well as what? Date. Now all arguments are required. Arguments must be integers in the following ranges. So month, year must be greater than or equal to minimum year. And year must be less than or equal to what year? Maximum year, defined by Python. Now month should be greater than or equal to 1. And month should be less than or equal to what? 12. And day should be greater than or equal to 1. And day should be less than or equal to number of days in every month of that particular year, right? If an argument outside these ranges, then you get which error? Value error. If it is outside these ranges, then you'll get which error? Value error. Then you'll get value error, right? If it is outside the ranges, then you'll get which error? Value error. So here I'm writing imported date time. So I import which module here? Date time module. So I want to represent a date. D1 equal to date time dot date. So what I have to represent first? I cannot create directly. If I say this, immediately give an error. Function missing required arguments here. So is it all these are required or not? Yes. So I'll say D1 equal to date time dot date. I have to give the year and I have to give what? Month. So next is month, next is month, and next is what here? Day. So I try to print D1. So this is a month, year, month, and date. But it will create this object, right? It will create this particular object. Now, whenever you create a date, the date is created with attributes. Now, date is having how many properties? Date is having 3 properties, right? Now, if you see date object, now this is date 1. So whenever you create a date, the date is created with a day and is created with a month and it is created with what? Year. But these attributes are read only. These attributes are what here? Read only. 06, 04, 2022. Okay, all these attributes are read only. I cannot modify. If I'm saying D1, suppose, if I'm saying D1 dot, if I'm saying D1 dot year, if I'm saying D1 dot year, equal to, if I'm writing 2021, immediately it gives what? Error. Immediately it gives what? Error. Immediately it gives an error. Getting on it, because is it date is mutable or immutable? Immutable. So after creating the date, you cannot do any changes. After creating the date, you cannot do any changes. D1 dot day, D1 dot month, D1 dot, what is that here? Year. Now 6/4/2022. 6/4/2022. Now this is a date, this is a day, and this is a month, and this one is what here? Year. Okay, now, right. Now you can read the day, month, and year by saying D1 dot day, D1 dot month, and D1 dot year. But if you are trying to modify it, immediately it gives what here? Error. Attribute day of date time dot date object is not writable. If I'm writing D1 dot day equal to some 5, immediately it is given which error? Attribute error. So that is attribute day of date time dot date objects is not writable. It is not writable. Means you cannot do any changes. Now it is generated which error here? Attribute error. Attribute day of date time date objects is not writable. Okay. Yes. Now even so it is. Now if you want to create a date by using current date, if you want to create a date by using current date, means system date, you can able to use today. See, it is only to represent, but you are not doing anything, right? If you want to do any arithmetic, right? You do arithmetic, date time dot date dot today. Now this will return system date, means current date. The same thing you call it as current date. The same thing you call it as what? Current date. Same thing is called as a current date, where this is year and this is a month and this is what here? Day. So today is a return the current local date. So that is how you represent the date. There is another class is there. What is that another class here? Time class. So a time class represent which object here? Time objects. A time object represents a local time of the day, independent of any particular day and subject to adjustment via time zone information object. Time zone, you define time zone, right? In system, date and time. You also define time zones. Here, this is a time zone. So time zone is UTC, Chennai, Kolkata, Mumbai, New Delhi. Now this is a time zone of India, right? Okay, now that might be changes based on the time zone specified. But you are trying to create a time, but all these are optional. If you don't give anything, the default hours is 0, default hours is 0, and default minutes is 0, and default seconds is what? 0, and microseconds is what here? 0. If I am trying to write here time 1 equal to date time dot time. For example, I want to represent time. For example, date of arrival. Suppose I'm developing some application for travel agency. Then I want to represent date of arrival and date of departure, right? A time of arrival and time of departure. Then I have to represent that as which type? Time type. Date times. So date times are very useful in application development, right? So time, but if I don't give anything here, time, hours, minutes, and seconds, then what is the default? Hours 0 and seconds is 0, and hours, minutes, and seconds, all these values are taken as what? Zeros. But if you want to create with given hours, minutes, and seconds, then you can define hours, minutes, and seconds here. You can give the hours, minutes, and seconds, hours, and this is minutes, and this is what here? Seconds. Now the time 2 is created with hours, minutes, and second. Okay, hours. Now this is also a read only. This is also what here? Read only. Now you can read individually these values like hours value. You can read minutes value. You can read seconds value. You can read hours value. You can read minutes values, and you can read what? Seconds values. Hours, minutes, and seconds. Now that you can do it by representing it by using which class? Time class. And there is another class. What is that another class you have is date time. There is another class. What you have is a date time, because date represents only date. Time represents only time, but date time hold both the objects. Okay. Date time object is a single object contain all the information from a date object as well as what? Time object. But in this date time, year, month, day is compulsory. Because these are which arguments here? Required arguments. But these are which arguments here? Optional. Okay, year, month, day is compulsory, but hours, minutes, seconds are what? Optional. So date, time represent both date as well as what? Time. Suppose if I give only, suppose D1 equal to date time is a module and date time is a class. Now I try to give only year, okay, year, month, and this is a date. Now I'm not given the time, right? I'm not given the time. Then what is the default time is taken? What is the default time is taken? This is the date. Okay, this is a date. Okay, this is a date, and this is what here? Time, which consists of hours, minutes, and what is that? Seconds. Okay, which consists of hours, minutes, and seconds. But you can from this actually this is having date as well as what? Time. So from this you can get the date by saying D1 dot date. From this you can get the time D1 dot time. So I separated date from date time. I separated date from date time. I separated time from date time. Because date time hold how many objects? Two objects. Date as well as what? Time. So if I say D1 is a date time. From that I get only what? Date. And from date I get only which one? Time. So I can separate. But these are read only. You cannot do any changes. For example, if I want to create a date time using current date, I mean system date, I can use what? Today. Now that will return now system date as well as what? Time. Now hours, minutes, and seconds, and this is what here? Microseconds. This is called as which seconds here? Microseconds. So this is microseconds. So that is how you are trying to work with the date time. Okay, like today. Yes. Now you cannot do arithmetic operations directly on the date. For example, this is a date 2. For example, what is this here? Date. Sorry. For example, this is a. Okay. Suppose this is a date. We'll take a date here. So D1 equal to date time dot today. Now this will return current date. But can I write here D1 equal to D1 plus 1? I want to increment D. So can I write D1 plus 1? No, I cannot write it. Immediately it is given what here? Error. Okay, immediately it is given what here? Error. What is that error here? Type error. Unsupported operand types for plus. Date time dot date. Yes. Unsupported operand types. For which one? Plus. So I cannot do arithmetic operations directly on the date. If you want to do arithmetic operations on the date, you take the help of another class. What is that another class here? Time delta. You take the help of another class. And what is the name of that class here? Time delta. So your time delta object represents a duration, the difference between two dates, or what is that? Times. Time delta object represents a duration, the difference between two dates, or what? Times. Now what you are saying, date time dot, what is this here? Time delta. Now time delta represent the difference in days or seconds or microseconds or milliseconds or minutes or hours, and one more is what? Weeks. So all arguments are optional and default to what? 0. Now you want to add number of days. You create time delta object with number of days which you want to add it. You want to add number of months, then you represent that months in what? Weeks. Okay. If you want to add number of or you want to add the year, then you have to represent that year as what? Number of weeks, right? But all arguments are optional and defaults to 0. Arguments may be integers or floats, or maybe positive or what? Negative. Only days, seconds and microseconds are stored internally. Even though if I am representing in weeks, this weeks will be converted into what? Days. So arguments are converted to those units, like a millisecond converted to 1000 microsecond. A minute is converted to what? 60 seconds. An hour is converted to 3600 seconds, and a week is converted to what? 7 days. Because internally it will store this time delta in days, seconds, and what? Microseconds. For example, now if you see this, now this values can be either positive. These values can be either positive or it can be what? Negative. Now I created date by using which date? Current date. Now today is nothing but which date here? Current date. Okay, today is nothing but what here? Current date. Date time dot date dot what is that? Today, that will return the current date. Okay. Now to this current date, I want to add 1 day. So what I'm saying, time delta dot date time dot time delta. How many days you want to add? 1 day. So D equal to D plus days. Now how many days you are adding here? 1 day. If you want to, now this days can be represented as positive or what? Negative. Now date time time delta days equal to -1. Means you are adding or subtracting? Subtracting. So D plus days means plus or minus is minus, right? So will it subtract how many days here? 1 day. Now you want to add 1 month. 1 month means you represent in what here? Weeks. So how many weeks you are adding here? 4 weeks. Now if I say D plus month, so 1 month will be added here. And date time dot time delta, you are adding number of days. Now days equal to what is that? 365. So how many days? Now this is nothing but year. Okay, date time dot time delta days equal to -365. Now you are trying to subtract what here? year. So you can add it, but that values can be either positive. Okay, that values can be either positive that values can be either positive. Now you can see. So this is after adding 1 day, after adding 1 day, after removing 1 day, after adding 1 month, and this is after adding 1 year, and this is after subtracting 1 year. But how I do all these arithmetics? How I do all these arithmetics by representing using which object? Time delta object. How I can do all these arithmetics by representing using which object? Time delta object. Time delta object. Then sometimes at the time of displaying date time, you may do some formatting, right? For example, if you see here how it is displayed Wednesday, April 6th, 2022. How it is displayed here? See, when you display the date time here, Windows, date time, how it is displayed like Wednesday, April 6th, 2022. So I want in this format. I want to display the date and time in this format. Then if you want to format the date and time, you can format the date and time by using one function called str format time. You can format the date and time by using what? Str format time. It followed by what here? Format. In which format you want to format the date and time. So you have to represent what here? Format. The format in which you want to format the date and time. So return a string representing the date controlled by an explicit formatting string. Okay, return a string representing the date controlled by an explicit format string. Format string. You have to represent a format. What do you have to do? You have to represent the format. Okay, right? Yes. We'll see how to format the dates, and even what is it? Another one you have is a calendars. So calendar means only displaying the calendars. So tomorrow I'll tell you how to work with this formatting the date and time, and even I'll try to tell you how to work with this calendar module. Maybe this Saturday, what we'll do is I may take some special class like NumPy and Pandas this Saturday and Sunday, right? Maybe 8 to 11 I'll take the class, 8 to 11 or 7:30 to 11, like that. Okay, so I'll take NumPy and Pandas both. Okay, I'll tell you again tomorrow. I'll inform. Okay, but you'll have one special class will be there this Saturday, Sunday you'll have. Okay, Sunday also I'll take the class. This Sunday we'll have the class. Okay, so we'll have some NumPy and Pandas 2 days, like workshop kind of thing, right? So we'll stop here. Tomorrow we'll continue this. Okay.